Thank you so much for being here. I want to express my appreciation to the candidates who are here with us. This is an opportunity for all of us to learn from the candidates, what their priorities are, and how we can educate ourselves about making the selection that is best for all of our people. I am so grateful to the team who was able to put this event together. And I'm also grateful to all the candidates who took the time to be here. And certainly, I want to appreciate the beautiful and amazing moderators who are here with us, who are going to lead us to a great conversation. Again, for us to learn from the candidates, but also for us to make informed decisions about how we vote in the next election. So thank you again so much, and I'll turn it over to the amazing moderators today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Tandiwe Abdullah.
And I'm Alex Cohen. Let's see if this is on. Can you hear us? Yeah, great. We're so grateful that all of you could join us here today for these incredibly important conversations. The mayor of LA is the city's CEO and really has significant power. The mayor directs entire city departments, appoints general managers and commissioners, and has the crucial responsibility of proposing the annual budget.
The coalitions hosting the event have reached out to all top 4 candidates, both Democrat and Republican, based on polling and fundraising, including the incumbents. We have requested that they join us before the budget deadline next week, and so far, only the mayor's office has declined, and we have yet to hear back from the other candidates, but we hope that they take the opportunity to join us and give the community a better understanding, especially on their budget priorities.
We are here now with candidate Reverend Rae Huang, and we are going to ask you a series of questions about your policies, your priorities, but we wanted to begin by giving you about 2 minutes for any opening remarks you'd like to share.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Rae Huang, and I am running for mayor of Los Angeles very proudly. I'm a single mother who lives here in Los Angeles. I've been a community organizer for over a decade now here in LA, and I've been working directly with communities on the ground, coming up with solutions that we need to ensure that our communities are safe, that our communities can thrive, and that our communities and our city can move well into the future with what we need. And this in particular, the TransLatin Coalition, as well as many other organizations, have worked very hard to ensure that we have real safety for our communities. But time and time again, what we're seeing is nobody in City Hall actually having the moral courage to take their solutions and their recommendations forward, to actually pursue what our communities need to stay safe, to be secure, and to be able to thrive. And so that's why I am now running for office. I'm running not to reform a system that doesn't work. I'm working and fighting for a system that actually needs to be changed and transformed for us to have real safety, for us to actually have a future where all Angelenos can have a home, can have a good job, not have to have more than 3 jobs just to get food on the table, for them to be able to have a good community life and not have to spend all their time in traffic, and for them to be able to get the health and security that they need. So this is why I'm running, and I am very proud that pieces of my campaign and platform include public bank to ensure that our investments are returning back to us and not being thrown into Wall Street's big loaded pockets. I'm also working for participatory budgeting process, so that way every Angeleno can decide and determine what they want for their city. So because our budget, as we often like to say, is a moral document. It tells us exactly what we value. And we know time and time again with the People's Budget LA survey that Angelenos want housing, Angelenos want food security, Angelenos want good jobs. They don't want more police, and they also don't want have to pay for parking fees. And what we also are fighting for in our platform also is for fast and free buses, so that people can get around easily and get to the resources they need without having to pay an extra dime, and for them to actually feel secure and safe both on the streets and also in transit. And lastly, we're also fighting to ensure that we can expand social housing, which is permanent, affordable housing permanently off the speculative market, that's community and publicly owned, that's protected for tenants, and also so that residents can manage their own households and their own homes. People need homes, and we need to ensure that they're not having homes for a short term, that they're having permanent safety and secure homes for the long term. And so I'm very proud and honored to be running for office, and thank you for the time.
Thank you for that. So we're heading into our first question. Current Mayor Karen Bass recently proposed a budget of roughly $14.85 billion. The bulk of that, more than $2 billion, is slated for the LAPD, and roughly $700 million for homelessness. If elected, where would you prioritize spending and why? Walk us through how you would build your first budget. What is your starting framework, and where do you make the first hard cut?
Yeah. So as I named in my introduction, that I've been a part of the People's Budget Los Angeles Coalition for 6 years now, as part of the first presentation, in fact, to City Hall based on that survey. And what we saw time and time again was that Angelenos, out of the tens of thousands of people who took this survey, and now we've taken it for 6 years, people have said at the very top, they want secure housing. They want to be able to know that they have a place to sleep and they don't have to worry about next month's rent. That is a high top priority. The other thing that's also been at the very top has always been food security. The other thing that's always been at the top is transit. The other thing that's been at the top is education. Our community has said over and over again that people don't feel safe by the police. Not only do they not feel safe, but historically we've seen racism, classism, homophobic responses by the police. We see and experience racial profiling. We've, in fact, as a city, have had to pay hundreds and millions of dollars in liability payouts because of misconduct by the police. And so at this moment, we need to be calling our LAPD accountable. We need to be putting money where our mouth is when we talk about real safety. We need to actually ensure that. And what that means is we need to prevent crime from beginning in the first place. If a crime has occurred, we don't want police to come. We don't need police to come after the fact to see and witness it, and then perhaps oftentimes to escalate the situation. We want to prevent crime from even beginning. And then when crisis does occur, because we're human, crisis will occur, that people are actually met with the needs that they have. So that way they're met with what do you need? How are you in this moment? If you're in a mental health crisis, you want to be met with a mental health crisis counselor who can walk you through your situation, not someone who might escalate it with a gun. And so what I would do and prioritize when I'm in office is to hold a participatory budgeting process, just like we've been seeing in the People's Budget LA survey. And that would include and give the opportunity for real democracy to be held here in Los Angeles. I believe very strongly and wholeheartedly in co-governance. We don't need a system that works without us. We need a system that works with us, that's led by us. And so that means giving Angelenos, everyday Angelenos, an opportunity and accessibility for them to be able to be in conversation with their local government about what they want, about their needs, and then to ensure that we can actually budget that and prioritize those things.
Rae, you mentioned secure housing. We'd like to drill down a little bit further on that. As many as 40% of homeless youth in LA identify as LGBTQ+. If elected as mayor, how specifically would you invest city dollars to uplift these communities and underserved communities of all ages? How would you incorporate input from the community and from service providers?
So right now, one of the biggest challenges we have in our city is that we know as Angelenos, we are invested in trying to solve our homelessness crisis and our housing crisis. And by the way, I just want to give a moment to describe that when we talk about homelessness and housing, affordable housing, we often talk to them about two different things. But we know that they are actually two sides of the same coin. And the antidote is permanent, affordable housing. It's secure and stable housing. And so how do we get that? One of the challenges we face as Angelenos for years now is that we've are willing to pay the tax dollars for housing. We, in fact, passed Measure A, which is sales tax that we, everyday Angelenos, are paying. We're willing to pay that price. We voted yes for that. We passed Measure YOLA to make sure that our wealthy are also paying their fair share. And also, I'm very supportive of the CEO tax, which is going to be a tax on corporations where their CEOs make more than 50 times their workers. A tax that is a progressive tax. That money is also going to be going towards affordable housing, amongst other things, like a public grocery store and streets. And so we, time and time again, have said we're willing to pay the money. But the problem is we've seen no transparency or accountability to ensure that we're actually building the homes that we need for the people who need them. We've also had no transparency or accountability in understanding if the Inside Safe has been productive in its goals to actually keep people housed. And now that we've had a peek into the Inside Safe program, we've seen that it has been completely unproductive. We've seen fraud, a waste of our tax dollars, and also there's no end in sight. We're paying hundreds of millions of dollars into a program that is not actually permanently housing people. And so we need to be able to change the system. And so what I will be doing is opening an Office of Housing for All to ensure that we are actually keeping on top of and holding accountability to ensure all the systems of housing and homelessness are working collaborative and collectively, because right now they're not. The current administration does not seem to understand that all of these departments and offices need to be in collaboration and in partnership to move these things along. Instead, they're working in siloed spaces and in competition. So this Office of Housing for All will focus on ensuring that all these systems are talking. There'll be a public dashboard, and so that way both service providers as well as the public can see and identify ways that we're actually meeting our goals in building affordable housing, as well as getting people housed, as well as getting the services that people need to stay housed. And then on top of that, we'll be ensuring that we're enforcing tenant protections. We have significant tenant protections. We need more. So I'll be fighting that on a very statewide level. As a city, we will be co-sponsoring a bill to repeal Costa-Hawkins, which has prevented us from being able to pass rent control on a local level. And also, I'll be working to maybe ensure that our funding from the state can go towards mental health services as well. We need to make sure that all of these systems are working and functioning collaboratively and collectively. And then lastly, I'm very proud to have been an expert and focused on social housing, both in the state as well as even on some cases on the national level, to ensure that we are able to expand social housing here in the city so that way we can actually solve our affordable housing crisis permanently and not just for the short term.
Thank you. So you have championed community intervention models over policing. With this in mind, what sort of budget do you envision for LAPD if elected? And what specifically would it focus on?
Like I've said, it's not even that I am asking to defund the LAPD. It's that the LAPD has been defunding us. So many of our services have been cut. Our city staff has had to be furloughed. I mean, like right now, we are not putting money where our mouth is. We're not putting money where we can actually be safe. And so I will be expanding our budget on the UMCR, which is the Unarmed Crisis Response Program, as well as CIRCLE, which is Unarmed Crisis Response, particularly focused on working with our unhoused communities to ensure that we can expand our budget to ensure that people are safe and that when they're in crisis, they're met with what they actually need. I will be defunding the LAPD because right now nobody trusts the LAPD, nor have they actually been shown to demonstrate that they actually are serving or protecting us. In fact, they're collaborating with ICE, and we've seen them even attack our youth as they gone out to practice their freedom of speech and protesting against ICE, which is, I'm so proud that our youth have done that. And yet they themselves were attacked by the local LAPD. So I don't have an exact number and figure in mind, but I do very much believe in the process of a participatory budgeting process. I plan on removing Chief McDonnell because he's not been shown to be able to follow the law, which is the first thing that he needs to do. And we need to ensure that we actually have police commissioners that agree with us and being able to move into real safety for our communities. And so that means defunding the LAPD, moving into the services, into the resources that we need, including, for example, I know that that the TransLatin Coalition, for example, has asked for a wellness program to be funded. We need to support that program. These are the things that will actually keep us safe. These are the things that will keep us secure. These are the things that are going to keep our communities from having to turn to crisis to find alternative ways of finding money and finding safety when nobody else is able to provide that for them, when our systems are not actually doing its job and keeping us secure.
And just to follow up on that, when it comes to unarmed crisis response, are there any specific cities that you're looking at for a successful model? And also, how would you put people at ease, the people who say that the lack of police is making LA unsafe? How would you kind of appeal to them and say, well, my reforms are also going to keep people safe?
Well, I can tell you that as our LAPD numbers are going down, so is our crime. So I need someone else to convince me that LAPD doesn't keep us safe. So it seems to be the case that when we can actually provide services for our communities, that's what's keeping us safe. And if anything, you know who's keeping us safe? We are. We're the ones who are showing up at the front lines. We're the ones showing up with the first aid kits when people are battered by the police. We're the ones who are showing up after the ICE raids happen, right? That's why our communities are at risk right now. It's because we're showing up. But our city is not. And this is why we need to be able to change this whole dynamic. One of the things I actually am looking forward to doing is recognizing and supporting and resourcing our local mutual aid and community organizations that are on the ground doing this work already. They're the ones creating the solutions that our communities need to actually keep us safe. We need to be resourcing them and seeing them as leaders for the new future that we have. A lot of people are afraid of the idea of not having the police. Somebody reminded me the other day that before we had the police, it was soldiers protecting us. And people realized, oh, this is not a good thing to have a militarized city and have soldiers protecting us, because they're most definitely not doing that. So they came up with a better system, the police. But now it's like we can't have an imagination. Why can't we have something better than the police? Right now, this is the moment, right? If we are ready to really, truly change how society can look, we can do this. I believe in imagination, and if anything, Los Angeles needs to be one to lead this. If anybody, there's a city that has the biggest imagination, I think it's us. With the Hollywood that we have here, but the Hollywood that we need to bring back here, let's be the ones to truly reimagine what safety can look like. To not be afraid of imagining something new. To not be afraid of actually believing in us and trusting us that we know how to keep us safe, and for us to be able to build that together. I trust us. I think maybe that's the most important part and makes me different than any other candidate right now.
On that note, as you well know, some of the candidates in this election have years of experience in City Hall, in elected office. Others do not. If elected, what exactly do you anticipate would be your biggest challenge as mayor, given not having had experience as an elected in City Hall? And considering that mayors typically inherit these budgets that are shaped by department requests and union contracts, prior commitments, what specifically would you change about the process itself?
The process that I would be changing, well, to answer your first part of the question, which is that it is recognized. I am not somebody who's had office. I am very proud to not have held office. If people like how our city is currently running, then please vote for the other candidates. If you don't like how our city is currently running and you feel like something needs a change, then that means we need change. We need change that doesn't come from the top, where somebody else makes decisions for you. We need change that comes from us. I am like all the other Angelenos out there. I'm a mom, send my 2 kids to school this morning, and then I go to work for the day. And I sit through traffic, or I prefer the train and the bus as many times as I can prefer it. And I live my life. The problem is it hasn't been working for me. And I know it hasn't been working for the great majority of Angelenos. And maybe it's been working, but you feel stuck. It's like you can't even improve your life. You can't see a future for yourself. For me, I'm worried about the fact that my kids are already telling me that they're not planning on staying in Los Angeles. They say, because how can I possibly? I can't afford a home near where you live, Mom. They're absolutely right. but that is why I'm running. So to turn to your question, so how can we change things? What am I planning on doing differently? This is why I believe in co-governance. This is why I believe in real democracy. And I'm sorry to say, real democracy takes real work, takes real courage. We actually have to put in time and money and effort and some spit and some elbow grease into actually changing what we need. Yes, we can stay complacent. Yes, we can just go on as usual, but that's the problem. We've been doing that. And people are ready and they're seeing that it's not working. The most beautiful part of Los Angeles over the past couple years is that we have been showing up. We know how to show up. We showed up with the fires. We showed up with the Black Lives Matter uprising after George Floyd was murdered and so many of our other brothers and sisters and kin was murdered. We showed up after during the pandemic, right? And now with the ICE raids. So we know actually how to do this. So what I am doing in our system of government that I'm hoping to change, that I will change, is I'm changing the tune. That's why there's going to be a participatory budgeting process. That's why one of the other things I plan on doing is holding a capital infrastructure plan process for all of our departments, for all of our city and county departments and offices, and most especially our public, to come together to decide what are the things that we need to change to make sure that the future of Los Angeles is the future that we need and the future that we want to create. Will it take some time and energy and effort? Yes. Is it worth it? 100%.
So one of your tenets on your platform is that you would want to create an office of nightlife. It's a key part of your platform. How do you see this affecting the LGBTQ plus community and other underserved communities? And how do you ensure that expanding nightlife doesn't harm quality of life for residents neighboring these businesses? And what are some of the specifics of this Office of Nightlife as well?
Yeah, this is actually one of the favorite parts of our platform that everybody really enjoys, which is neat. I never would have thought, but it makes sense because everybody likes to have a nightlife. Maybe unless you're a parent of small children, which is real. So the Office of Nightlife is the recognition that we have a whole untapped economy in Los Angeles for us to grow, for us to support. We are a city of entertainers. If there's anything that we're good at, we know how to entertain people. We know how to storytell. We know how to grow imagination. We know how to have fun. We know how to release. And that's one of the things, by the way, I care a lot about mental health. I care a lot about community health. And one of the ways to support that is actually through having more third spaces for social connection, for community meet and greets, for us to be able to release. Because I don't know if you like dancing the night away, but that it sure is for the vast majority, I think, of people in the world, a way that we are able to release and lean into our own bodies, which is a place of healing right now. So the Office of Nightlife would be able to both identify and support ways that we can actually grow our nightlife. So that way we can have more third spaces. We can become the city that invites and grows our entertainment spaces. We can have also safety in the evening. One of the things is that a lot of our public transit, for example, ends so early in the evening. So for not even just talking about nightlife, just for essential workers, they can't rely on public transit to get anywhere. They also can't rely on safety because there's so little support in the evening. If we are able to expand our nightlife, it also means that we can also support safety while people are getting home late at night, while they're enjoying themselves. It also means that all of our entertainment spaces, both ones that are specifically led by our LGBTQ community, by the way, which are some of the ones that have really shaped the world in the way that we can be able to both play with who we are and also expand how we are as human beings in our identities, as well as the ways that we're able to communicate and have fun, right? These are also in the LGBTQ community, particularly the trans community, it has been a place for to have an industry and to grow an economy when otherwise they were otherwise left out of the rest of the economy. And so we want to be able to expand these third spaces, this place of entertainment and art that has really grounded our communities for generations now. And we want to support that, and we want to expand it, and we want it to be a place of growth for LA. We could be the city that never sleeps also. And we can also ensure that all of our arts programs, both from music to food. I didn't even talk about food and drink. We know we have some of the best food and mocktails and cocktails in the world right here in Los Angeles. Let's expand into the evening and be able to make more money for our local businesses, our local entertainers, and also expand who we are as Los Angeles. We're already pretty big on the map. Let's make us even bigger.
That is a fun note. We do have a very serious question, but I think it does tie into some of your answers. And for that, I'm going to hand it over.
Okay, great. I'll take it real quick. Hi, my name's Tara Russell-Slavin. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm the Chief Strategy Officer at the Los Angeles LGBT Center for Informational Purposes Only. And I think many of us in this room, right, are very much aware of what is happening federally. And Children's Hospital Los Angeles was one of the largest providers of gender-affirming care for TGI youth in the country. And last summer, the hospital preemptively shut down its program, citing threats under the Trump administration, which were threats but not in fact law. And we're seeing similar organizations and similar hospitals, this happening all over, right? Both locally and across the country. And I want to know, what would you do as mayor to ensure that California's laws and the right to TGI care for youth is protected and enforced, and that there's access?
You know, this is such an important issue for, I would say on a personal level, because I know, unfortunately, too many youth and children who are impacted by this change, and both on an emotional fear level to a physical level of not being able to be provided care anymore. This is also a citywide issue in that we have to take seriously. We know that people travel from across the world to seek refuge here specifically in Los Angeles because we've been seen as a place of refuge and safety and security and support, particularly for LGBT youth and children, where families will move so their children can have the right care that they need to be able to survive. And we're talking about survival here. We're not just talking about a preference. We're talking about life or death for our children, our youth, and our adults who come here, who migrate here, to be able to find safety and security. Now, I know that as a city, we're not the ones being able to determine healthcare laws. However, I have a bully pulpit as a mayor to be able to declare and state exactly what is morally right in this moment and what is morally wrong. We are able to speak for the people who are us, our own Angelenos, our own families, our own children and youth, who are being not just dismissed, but I have to be serious with us, who are asking a life or death question when they're being attacked at this level. It's not just healthcare we're talking about. It's about seriously taking seriously the dignity, well-being, and human lives of our communities. We have to recognize that the Olympics are on its way. And even there, the Olympics have already decided that they are testing every single athlete. By the way, they're testing every woman athlete to determine whether or not that they can compete, which is disgusting and despicable. It's moving into the privacy of other people, into who they are. In this moment, we have to be courageous together, not just me as mayor, as a whole city, to determine what it means to protect our own. And we're talking about our youth and our families. We're talking about the people that we love. We're talking about our neighbors. I would love to work even further about what it means, because I do at times feel like, as a city mayor, that there are, using my bully pulpit, of course, I have named co-sponsoring bills such as healthcare for all, are things that I can do, and I plan on doing that. But I also am wondering what more we can do. But I do think that we are a very smart, creative bunch here in LA, and that when we come together as a collective across sectors, and across, the whole region, that we are able to say a lot more. And LA being the second largest city in the nation means that there's a huge impact whenever we speak up and speak out. But yeah, that's the answer to your question. But I'd love to learn more and continue the conversation, though, because it is a major concern, like I said, on a very personal level. And I'm still processing what more ways that we can do with the federal government that we have in the moment, the administration that we have in the moment.
Rae Huang, on behalf of the TransLatin Coalition, the other organizations represented here today, myself and Tandiwe, thank you for making the time to talk with us here today.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm also happy to answer any other questions from other folks, and to open the imagination with you all too. So, yeah.
What we do recommend it, we do to continue advocating for the majority of the budget of the equally to the Angelenos, and why LAPD get a high percent of the budget of Los Angeles.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that one more time, please?
What do you recommend it?
Yes.
We have to do to continue advocating for the majority of the budget to be equally to the Angelenos, and why LAPD get a high percent of the budget of Los Angeles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's why I talked about participatory budgeting, because it is a specific process. When the public speaks and says exactly what they need and what they want, it's very hard for politicians to be able to back away, because Angelenos have spoken. That's why when you vote and you state exactly what measure you want passed, it's harder for politicians to be able to move backwards. I will give a caveat, though. That is the problem right now with LA politics, though, right? Like, we voted for Measure ULA, and which is a transfer tax on mansions, on properties that are $5 million or more. And that money goes towards, building social housing, affordable housing, emergency funds for seniors who are unhoused, as well as right to counsel, which prevents homelessness. So this is a huge, over $1 billion in revenue, right? So we passed that, and more people voted for Measure ULA than they did for Mayor Karen Bass. But yet, Mayor Karen Bass and Councilmember Nithya, for example, have been moving us backwards on that law, trying to undercut it and trying to weaken it and trying to get rid of it. And so we still see this happening. And so it is equally important, both of why I am creating a co-governance model by which the public can actually speak up and say what they want, so we can hold our electeds accountable. But it is equally important that we actually have people on a regular basis being activated in organizing work, in being able to identify the solutions, and being able to show up at City Council and City Hall. And so we do need to continue to expand the advocacy work here in the city, which is why I will be resourcing local community organizations and their advocacy work, why I named already that mutual aid services and programs are things that we need to be able to support more of, because we do need to both recognize them, but to ensure that we can expand our community organizing work and level here. And then I didn't mention earlier, but one of the other offices I plan on opening is an office of community engagement and community organizing, an office dedicated to be working locally with community organizations, and being able to expand our community organizing work, because ultimately those are the things that are going to be able to keep us accountable to moving us forward in the long term. I say often, time and time again in my campaign, winning in November is not the goal. If I only win in November and then everybody stops campaigning, everybody stops organizing, everybody stops advocating, we will receive nothing. We will accomplish zilch. But if we are able to build a campaign where people get invested, they join organizing work, they become politically activated, they learn the solutions themselves, that is when we can begin to progress. And that's why my campaign has always been focused not on winning in November, but actually activating people to join organizing and to help them learn about the actual solutions we have on the ground here. So that way, in the long term, we can be building a movement so that well after I'm in office, we can have another person carrying it out because we're holding them accountable, because we're the ones deciding and we're the ones leading the city.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I had a question. So I wrote it down. So with both your religious background and also your support for the LGBT plus community, how do you see these two modalities affecting your decision making if you hold committees?
Yeah. I'm very proud to say that the reason I am a Presbyterian minister, and specifically it's the Presbyterian Church USA, because it is the most progressive branch of the Presbyterian denomination. I actually grew up in a conservative immigrant church community. And while I'm proud to have grown up in this immigrant church community because it raised me, I grew up in a community where everybody was white. No one ate the food I ate. No one spoke the language that I spoke at home. No one looked like me. And so this church was a safe place for me. And the problem, though, was that they did not recognize anybody who was LGBTQ. And in fact, was very oppressive around that. And in fact, they don't ordain women. And so when I turned 18, it became a problem that I felt called to get ordained. And so I specifically chose a denomination that was affirming in LGBTQ. Now, with that said, I believe very strongly in the separation of church and state. I actually find it problematic on both levels, both because I don't want the church to influence the state and also because I don't want the state to influence the church. And we don't want to just say church. We want to say all religious institutions because there's a lot more diversity in religion. Actually, very proud to say, Los Angeles has the most religious diversity in the world than any other city in the world. We have, by square footage, the most number of different diverse religions, which is amazing because millions of people have traveled to Los Angeles to seek refuge and to also share their faith and to be able to continue to practice it. So we want to support the religious diversity of Los Angeles. It is one of the beautiful parts of LA, but we need to be able to do it in a way that actually protects people. It protects especially our LGBT community, which has been oftentimes under threat and under attack because of religious institutions. And that's why it's very important that when we say we are a sanctuary city, that we mean it, not just for our immigrants, but also for our LGBTQ communities who have specifically, like I said earlier, came here to seek refuge, came here to be able to live full lives, came here so that way they can so they can survive, so they can live with dignity, with full lives. And so that's why I will continue to ensure that there is zero tolerance for any hate against any person who is LGBTQ specific, any hate against any race or ethnicity, any hate for any religious practices or religions. Right? These are things that we hold sacred in our community, that we must continue to hold sacred in our community. Otherwise, why are we even here? We are here, and the beauty of LA is our diversity. The beauty of LA is our sanctity. The beauty of LA is the holiness of every single human being, no matter what they practice, no matter what they believe, no matter who they are, no matter who they love. So those are the things that we must continue to hold sacred, and I hope that answers your question.